This is the Total Perspective Vortex. I'm Tragula.
And I'm Christian.
It's July 14th, 2020. Hey, Christian. So we got a lot of new viewers and first-time listeners off of the interview with Sargon. So
it was a good interview, too.
Yeah, I think it's a good time to chase them all away by talking about Trump. So I wanted to actually, because I did get some sort of feedback because we did sort of leak that we're Trump supporters, deplorable Trump supporters, and that there are a lot of liberal and left-leaning people out there who think they've never met a Trump supporter before, that there's like some sort of creature that exists off in this land of Mordor or something that's far away from where they exist, like the flyover states or something.
Right.
So I wanted to actually, and they have like these misconceptions about why people support Trump, like that they're just evil racists or something along those lines. So I wanted to sort of make
or that we think he's perfect. Like, oh, he has this character flaw. Don't you agree that he has this character flaw?
Yeah. Well, why do you support someone who has a character flaw?
Yeah.
There's some third candidate who's on the ballot who doesn't have a character flaw?
Right. And we should start by saying, because this is super typical if you speak to any Trump supporter, who was your first pick, say, in the debates? Oh, I'm asking you. Yeah, so I was more of maybe a Rand Paul guy. And what were you? Because everyone says that wasn't my first pick.
Oh, well, I mean, in 2016?
In 2016,
I was a Bernie supporter.
Oh.
Yeah, but still your heart.
Yeah.
And it was actually, I think there was that speech he was in Seattle where those, I think that there were two women who were supporting Black Lives Matter, which is a movement you may have heard of recently.
And it's made the news, I think.
Yeah, because it might have made some headlines. But at the time, it wasn't as huge. And during one of Sanders' rallies, they got up and stole the mic from him.
Oh, right.
And that was sort of that's where he lost my support, ultimately.
Really?
Yeah.
You want to flesh that out?
Well, it's because he's running for president of the United States and he can't even run one of his own rallies. I mean, that's the end of it. Like that. Could you imagine that happening at a Trump rally?
No.
And that was sort of like a realization is that, look, we're not going to accomplish anything if we just have a talking room and the loudest voice is always the one who has the mic, right? That's not what a leader does.
Right. And I should also mention that we're both Canadians, but I would have voted for Obama the first time. Like I am also. We're both from the left. So if your instinct right now, as someone listening, is to say like, oh, these guys are just, these crazy Trump supporters, you have to realize that maybe there is some information here, because we do come probably, if that's your reaction, we probably come from the same place, and so
or at least you had us and then you lost us, in the sense of
that's
like,
good, yeah.
Yeah, so we were listening to what you had to say, and then because of events and what's transpired, you're like, no. Right.
And I guess you mentioned yours, I'll mention mine. I was an Obama supporter until he became very, very pro-war, and I was part of that Bush anti-war movement, and I naively thought that anti-war movement would hit Obama just as hard as it did Bush, and I was at the figurative barricades of the at the front line of the protests for the anti-war, and when Obama came into power, I looked around and everyone was gone, and I became a little less naive about left and right, my team versus Team Red versus Team Blue at that moment, and that's when the left lost me, when they the anti-war left just kind of evaporated under Obama. So
yeah.
Anyway,
well, I mean, and that is again like similarly. I feel like I was sort of pushed in that direction too. It was just sort of like Obama broke a lot of promises, and people forget just how many promises he broke, and the big ones. And Trudeau is you can say similar. It's like he got in, and he it isn't just like he didn't. It isn't just that they broke promises, but they broke the key promises, like the anti-war promise, and that like the big ones that really resonated with people are the ones that they were quickest to forget. Right. But
and for me, it might be a little more nerdy, but nerdy. It's not really nerdy. It's very key. But restoring habeas corpus, and there's so many things that he spoke about. Senator Obama, love the guy. Before he did anything or tried to do anything, Senator Obama was fantastic.
He was all full of promises, and we quickly learned that was all hollow rhetoric.
Right.
And this is actually one of the things that I like in hindsight, I feel I support Trump more than I did in 2016 because he tried to deliver on his promises. Like if what he said he was going to do matches very, very much with what he actually did.
Where he's putting his efforts.
And that's huge. I don't recall a politician in my lifetime who I can really say that about so definitively.
Right.
And the left castigate Trump, but they very rarely go after him for not keeping his promises because it just doesn't land. And if you believe in democracy, that should be a huge indicator. Like, at least I'm going to be voting for someone who does what they say they're going to do.
Right. Even though they say it in their own kind of punchy way, and you might not like the way he says he's going to do the things he's going to do, but he does them. He gets things done.
Yeah, and getting things done is very critical, and that's actually why I've titled this episode "Trump Loves the Carpenter."
Right.
And that's a specific call out to Christians and like helping hopefully people on the left or people who have TDS understand why Christians might support Trump. It's like, because of course Trump sins, and Trump has not been like he's not lived the life of Jesus on his third wife, right? So
yeah, there may be a gap there.
And the sixth or seventh gold encrusted skyscraper may have broken some vows of modesty or privacy or something along those lines.
Right. And again, we're not looking for perfection, right? It's not what we're looking in individual, and that wouldn't even be fair. We all sin.
Yeah. But to tie it back to what I was talking about well-formed religion and the cornucopia, about the productive loop, right? Like that's sort of like this essence of like the Holy Grail, the generative loop at the center of uniting society is that what can unite a society is growth. And we're not just talking about economic growth, but the generative cycle of us all working together and collaborating, building stuff. And I think one of the reasons that Jesus is a carpenter is that carpenters build things, right? And they build homes, which build cities. They build houses, which build cities, right? So there's that working with your hands and building things aspect of it. And one thing no one can accuse Trump of doing is not building things in his life.
Right.
He's demonstrably. Yeah. He's like my son on Minecraft, just going crazy. Like he's building stuff everywhere.
Right.
And he's really focused on that. Like he's done it in environments where that have been very resistant to it. So Trump's father, like I don't know if you've read The Art of the Deal.
I have.
Okay. And I would recommend it to our listeners too, because you'll understand it will give you a much greater understanding of who Trump is and what Trump thinks about things.
And this will come as a shock to no one, but it's an easy read.
Yeah. But I would be like, before you start talking about how, Trump is this horrible racist or like, what is like, yes, he has an ego, but I mean, if you really want to understand his head, like reading The Art of the Deal is a good place to start.
He lays out a lot of what the tactics that he uses. It's laid out, and it's shocking that the media and the Washington elites don't get it. I mean,
they're an active propaganda campaign to dehumanize him. So that's one of the reasons. There's people who don't get it, and I can talk about why they don't get it. But part of the problem is that there is an active propaganda campaign to dehumanize him. Right? That's why they want to take him out of. In Home Alone 2, he has a walk-in with Macaulay Culkin, and they want to take him out of that because it humanizes him, right? So there's this whole scene where he interacts. I don't know if you...
Right. Famously, CBC, I think it was, removed him from from that hotel scene, didn't they? With Macaulay Culkin? Right.
Yeah. And that's part of the dehumanization.
Right.
Of it.
Because he offers him help in that...
Yeah.
In that small segment, right? So
yes. Yeah. And he's very much like... The joke is he's Donald Trump, but the same part that he's a human being,
right?
And the joke is like Macaulay Culkin, or like Kevin, I guess, doesn't have any idea how New York City works, so he walks right up to Donald Trump and asks him for directions, and Donald Trump just gives him directions, and that's sort of the humor of the scene.
Right, the man who is building New York City, right?
Right, yeah, right, and that's actually what I want to sort of get back to is Trump is a social hacker, and this is what the niche that he found in New York City for himself. So he built a lot of buildings that were impossible for anyone else to build.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that's really key. Like his father strongly advised him not to go into the real estate market that he went into because it was very hard to make money.
Right.
But Trump found a way. And because of all the regulation, because of all the bureaucracy, because of all the unions, because there's all this corruption. Like New York City is a swamp and was a swamp of bureaucracy and red tape, and of everyone taking a little bit of the pie. And Trump successfully navigated that to become a billionaire, and build all sorts of buildings, while doing that. He built an empire while doing that, right. And that requires an amount of a very certain personality and a certain level of intelligence, and a certain amount of skill that probably he may be. It's so exceptional that he may be the only person on earth who could have done it, or close to it.
Right, and an animal cunning as well.
Yeah. Right. But most of all, it takes this orientation towards growth and construction to respect the carpenter. Right. So Trump's very interested in building things. Anyone who works with their hands and who actually works with the world is going to tell you that is messy. Absolutely. And things don't always go to plan.
Never
go to plan.
Ask any project manager. Things don't go to plan in significant ways 5 to 6 times a day. But yeah.
And this is, I think, where the Dems don't get, is because they come from this world of ideas and this world of social construction. I want to say like social rules. Like for them, it's a huge social dance. You have to speak the right way. You have to act the right way. Their whole environment is governed by your social standing,
right?
And also by the sort of these ideas that you have to espouse, right? That's what I don't like the term virtue signaling. I call it ideological loyalty signaling. But that's very much part of it. Like you're always signaling your social status and your ideological loyalty.
Right.
And there's taboos and stuff around this. So they're very much upset by the Trump's continual ability to upset their game or to violate their game and not seem to pay any consequences for it. That's that thing. So like he tweets things or he says things that they find are absolutely repugnant. And like, how could you vote for anyone who does that? Because he said a thing. He said a thing. It's so horrible that he said a thing, but he gets stuff done.
So this is, I just want to piggyback on that because this is very insightful for me anyway. So, because you say that, and my instinct is to say, like, when you're on we're both kind of come from working class families. I've done actual construction, and when you say when you talk about social rules, and you have to say this thing in this specific way, and so on, to me that rubs me the wrong way because we have things to do. We got to get things done. Yes. And it seems to just get in the way of getting things done.
It does get in the way of getting things done. Yeah.
Right. And so I think you might have hit the nail on the head there, where it's like, we're not taking time to say, to signal, to do all these things. We're too busy doing stuff. And so when we hear I'll speak for myself. When I hear President Trump say certain things, they're kind of funny, they're kind of whatever, but I don't judge him very much on that. I judge him on what he brings into existence, at what rate, and so on. His work ethic.
Is he getting the wall built?
Is he getting the wall built? Well, I judge him. I give him a B on that, but he's had a lot of resistance.
Considering, but he's clearly been trying to get the wall built.
That's right. Right. Exactly.
Right. So it's
under heavy investigation and which is no small thing. That takes over a large part of your life, and he's still managing to do things. Right.
Yeah, and that's what you get, and this is why, we're often talking across purpose from people who largely live in the realm of ideas and they don't understand Trump, is because for them this is why they're often like the social justice warriors or the neo-Marxists have so much power over them, because social violations, character assassination means the end of their career, who they are, where Trump identifies more with like getting stuff done. And if there's reports of Trump as a child, and I don't know if it's in the Art of the Deal, but you can get this impression that he was very much focused on listening to people on his job sites. Like, and when when he went to visit his father's construction sites, he would do the same thing. Like, he would actually talk to the working class people, like to the people who worked for him. Right. Or worked for his father.
It's this odd situation where there's a billionaire populist, right? Like, he talks to people and engages with the working classes. Sorry, go on.
But it's not an odd situation, because I think if in a more well-functioning society, there would be more billionaire populists, because there would be the production of mass amounts of wealth would be more oriented to actually getting things built and getting things done. It's a testament to the way our society is malformed now, that most of our billionaires are disconnected with the people who are doing the actual work. I think one of the reasons our economies have spun out into this realm of ideas and Wall Street wealth, and that is because real growth is sort of stagnated.
Right. Nothing is being built right now. And I think Eric Weinstein makes this point. He's like,
1971, he talks about 1971, and there's all these great graphs you can see where it's just sort of like something happens in 1971 where the real economy gets disjointed from all the GDP growth gets broken down from actual
or decoupled
from working class wages and there's other graphs that show this. There's something happens then, and this is and I think this is all related to that, and why Trump so much upsets them, because he's much more in line with the Carpenter, right? And actually building things, and he makes a mockery of their game, of their social game, and partly because there's another standard that people are judging him by besides what he says, that they can't compete at all. They can't compete on Trump's game. But Trump is also owning them on their game. Is the other flip side of this, right? Because he's playing the social game, and he can make the media cover him.
Right.
That's a huge part of their economy is attention.
Right.
A huge part of their economy is attention, and Trump can draw all the attention to him. So that's another thing that frustrates him, and he's doing it by violating the rules of the social game that they play, which is another thing. So he's disrupting their game in a very powerful way. So these are like sort of the fundamental reasons they hate him, is that they're coming from this world of ideas that's detached from reality, that's detached from morals. It's becoming more and more detached from reality, and Trump draws attentions to illusion, the illusory nature of their world, and Trump also gets stuff built. So this is basically, I mean, I could flesh this out more, but I think this is a good primer on why Trump loves the Carpenter.
I want to end on one thing, just because you were saying Christians, voting for Trump. One last thing, and I think Trump has a certain empathy that we don't see from others. Right now the Dems and people on what they call the coastal elites talk about flyover states, and we've seen the middle of America be hollowed out, of jobs, and all the manufacturing got shipped over, and then a lot of them have turned to opiates, and the working class has been called, in the middle of America, have been called all sorts of names by the coastal elites, and but President Trump's the first one in a long time that comes around and says, we care about you.
Yeah.
And we're going to, I'm going to try to do something for you. I'm going to try to get these jobs back. And as much as, we want to, maybe certain members of the left want to give, welfare programs and so on, but these are proud people. Well, you get that pride from having a job.
I'm just going to draw it, because I think this is the message that maybe leftists don't hear, but I'm going to extend that out, is connected to this idea of the Carpenter. Because Trump loves the working class for what they do. And the working class loves themselves for what they do, what they produce. Right? So farmers love the fact that they produce food for people, and they help feed the nation and provide wealth from that. Right? And Trump sees value in that, in what they do. He treats them with respect for what they do. Whereas the coastal elites, who have separated themselves and live in this world of ideas, they see no moral value in that. So they treat the working class, the flyover states, like they're children who need to be coddled. Right. They hold them with a certain contempt, because they don't see the value. They think material wealth just appears out of thin air, right? They don't know where it comes from, or they don't appreciate the work and the imperfection and the difficulty of dealing with reality. Right. Whereas Trump sees these people as on sort of a front line. Right. Of changing the world and growing. And that's the difference, the connection. That's the difference of thing. So people in the flyover states don't want welfare checks. Right. Welfare checks are something you're giving them, or you're just, and it has in it sort of a devaluation of what they do. Exactly. Of the production of things, right? Right. And this is where that love of the Carpenter and the love of the growth in building things comes in, right? The cornucopia you need carpenters and this is like why Jesus is sort of like the path there to God, is you need to build things in order to create that generative loop. Your society needs to create things in order to build that generative loop, and the generative loop creates the wealth that creates the collaboration that makes society function. Right. So that's why Trump loves the Carpenter, and hopefully people with Trump derangement syndrome, or TDS, who's listened to this, may at least have a better understanding of what us deplorables think and why we vote for Trump. Right. All right. So share, like, subscribe, do all the good things, and we'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, sharing is caring.
Sharing is caring.
Share this with someone who has TDS in your life.
End on platitudes.
And on the other side, hug a deplorable.
That's right.
All right.
Just want the love. All right. Cheers.
Cheers.